What if it was possible to have local, fresh groceries delivered right to your door? Think of all the free time you'd have. Well, Instacart gives unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Forgot that special ingredient in your favorite dish? Instacart can deliver it to your front door in as fast as 1 hour. You can shop multiple stores, see deals in your area, and save time and money. I've been using Instacart for over 3 years. I started using them in Arizona, and I'm using them here in Florida. I love the time-saving convenience. They pick the freshest products, and they keep my eggs safe too. To receive your first delivery free, follow the link in the show notes so that Instacart knows that we sent you and to help support the show. Instacart. Never step foot in a grocery store again. Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Hi there and welcome to the show. I'm honored to have with us today Carolyn Rose. She's an author, speaker, mom, wife, dog lover, wine-loving, hope-holding, 3-time stage 4 cancer thriver. After being diagnosed with an incurable stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was only 27 years old, Carolyn learned firsthand the essential role hope plays in survival. Carolyn's story is more than a cancer survivor. It's the story of love, loss, and the ultimate realization that the hope of true joy always outweighs the struggle. Welcome to the show, Carolyn.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to have you. So where are you today? Are you in Texas today?
I am in Texas, and it's supposed to be fall, although it has just not cooled off yet. So I'm wearing sweaters, hoping that will manifest some cold weather to come through.
I totally understand. I'm in Florida and I'm doing the same thing. I've always got my little sweater shawls on going, surely at any moment it's going to, get cold.
Yeah. We want to get that winter wardrobe out and I love the bundling up and being cozy. And, I miss living in those cold climates. Deeply miss that.
Oh, I know. Me too. I miss seasons a lot. Well, I have them. You have them. They're just very different.
They're different to keep you on your toes. That's for sure. Yeah. We were in LA for 16 years and we were at an event one night where the local weatherman was speaking and he said, I've had the easiest job ever. I mean, if you're too lazy to go look out the window, it's sunny and warm. It's sunny and warm, and it really, really was. And so as wonderful as that was after so many years, you so appreciated the seasons and the weather that maybe you griped about before.
Mm-hmm. I agree. After, 9 years in Arizona and now here in Florida, I swear the first year here, I prayed every year. I was like, God, please don't harm the animals, but could we have some cooler weather? And last year it actually happened. I actually had on a down jacket one day. It was hysterical.
Oh, amazing.
I know. But any cooling off is wonderful, as you know.
Yes. We'll keep every finger crossed to us for sure.
I know we will. So I'm really wanting to dive into your story because I know this is going to help so many of our listeners out there. I don't know really one human being on this earth where cancer has not touched their lives. And I would love for you to start from the beginning to how you actually went through everything and where you are today.
Absolutely. When I was in my 20s, I was just such a driven person. And I really was sort of just forcing my life down this path. And I was very type A and, just marathon runner, med school student. Every hour was structured and planned. And then out of nowhere, I was diagnosed with this incurable stage 4 cancer. And it was a complete shock. We just found it on some blood work I was doing before going to Africa to climb Mount Kilimanjaro with my brother. And, it just literally within a minute took me out of this life that I had been pushing and, creating onto this completely other path of having to stop and slow down and listen to my body, really get to know my body. I was so in my head that looking back, I realized, I wasn't listening to my body when it was tired. I wasn't honoring what it needed. I was kind of telling it. And I think it was what it took. It took a diagnosis that serious to get me to really pay attention and wake up. And I remember when I was diagnosed and we went through all of the stage testing, it was one thing to know that it was a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but it was another, well, how widespread is this? What kind of lymphoma is this? And that took about a week. And when those results came back, that it was highly aggressive, incurable, stage 4, it was absolutely everywhere in my body. I think that the hardest part for me of all of it was when the doctors finished that by saying, and we cannot cure you. We can treat you, but there is no cure for this cancer. And in my goal-oriented mind, that was impossible to grasp, almost harder than the diagnosis itself, because there's a pretty significant denial, whenever anyone hears the word cancer, whether it be for their loved one, themselves, their friend, whatever it is. And that is when my uncle came to me that night. And at the time, he was very involved with MD Anderson Cancer Center, and that is where I was for treatment. And he'd just been in these awesome meetings, and he came in and he said, Caroline, here's the thing. I've just been listening to these doctors and listening to these researchers, and I have listened and seen firsthand the incredible things they have going on. Maybe it's not for your specific disease, but just buy time, because there will be a different treatment option. And when you need it, in the future, a very strong possibility of potentially a curative option. So just buy time, do what you have to do to live another day, take these baby steps, and just see where this goes, but just get there, give yourself the chance to at least, have that treatment. And that made sense to me. And I thought, okay, I can do this, and that's what I did. And I did it through my first round, went and got through the treatments, went into remission for about 8 months. Cancer came back, had my first bone marrow transplant. And that really was the potentially curative treatment at the time. And it went well. And so we kind of left that thinking that was good. We did this. And I really, in my mind, had moved past it. My husband and I were young. We had frozen embryos, knowing fertility was probably going to be very, very difficult for us. And we really mentally and emotionally moved on away from cancer, towards starting a family. And that was our focus. And we were so blessed with 2 healthy kids. And when my daughter was 2 and my son was 5 weeks, the back pain I'd been having during his pregnancy turned out to be the cancer had been growing back. And we didn't know because I couldn't be scanned during his pregnancy. And so I think that third diagnosis, having moved past it in every way, having these literally babies at home, it was this feeling of betrayal in this way. I'd come to terms with this disease. I had, in a weird way, made friends with it. We'd parted on good terms, like it did what it had to do, but I beat it and we were good. It was this odd relationship in a way. And it felt like the biggest betrayal that it had snuck back up on me and come back when no one expected it. And to be a mom, the gravity of that was just too difficult for me to bear, really. And the hardest thing in talking through this with my doctor was that we'd already done that treatment. There really was not another treatment to try. And that was the moment of, if you ever lose hope in something, being told that there really isn't something that'll do it, and you can look at your babies and your husband and how much everybody needs you and you need them. And that was when my doctor really kind of went out and really, really did all he could. And he found this clinical trial that they were only allowing 68 people into. And he got me in his number 66. And he said, here's the thing. I think this could be it. And it is risky as hell. There's a 40% mortality rate, but this could be it. And we agreed and we did it. And that was 11 years ago. And it was the most brutal thing I could have ever imagined getting through. And it almost did me in, but it didn't. And we got through it. And I've been in remission for 11 years.
My goodness. Congratulations. I have such goosebumps. That is so amazing.
Yeah.
What an incredible story of hope. I know that you've written a lot about how that third time was so different for you.
Yes.
With the treatments and everything that you went through, what advice do you have for someone who may be in a similar situation going, I don't know. I don't know if I can do another day, another treatment. What do you say to that person?
Are you ready to lose inches, increase strength, and tone your body from head to toe? Are you ready for a total body, mind, and spirit transformation? I am excited to announce that I am launching my exclusive 8-week Pilates Return to Life training program. This will give you an opportunity to have a total body, mind, and spirit transformation of health and wellness to a new lifestyle. Imagine in 7 days you will feel a difference, in 14 days you will see a difference, and in 8 weeks you will have your new Pilates body. So what do you say? Want to join me on the mat? Head over to jenniferpilates.com today. Space is limited. Use this special promo code EW and the word special, EW special, to receive $200 off while space is available. Head on over to jenniferpilates.com and I'll see you on the mat.
I think my initial thought when you ask that is it's okay. I think we put such pressure on ourselves. And I know as like a mom and a woman, that's sort of what we do is we care for others. And I think sometimes when you're really taken down to the bottom and you're stripped of everything that life has, and it's really just your soul laid bare, that's when we really have to be the kindest to ourselves and almost give ourselves permission to go there and be hopeless and be devastated and be scared and be vulnerable, because that doesn't mean you're not going to have hope coming out of it. That doesn't mean you're not going to have joy. That doesn't mean you're not going to have a full life. But I think, getting through a difficult situation and then healing on the other side are very different. And I think that we all need to allow ourselves to really be in that and be okay with it and not feel like I'm doing this wrong, or I should be stronger, or I should be more hopeful, or I should be all these shoulds, and sometimes it's a situation that is given to us to really allow ourselves just to be exactly where we are in that moment.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. So for today, where are you with your relationship with cancer?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Today I am, it's been 11 years since I've gone through any form of treatment. I love that question you asked, that relationship with cancer, because, it's interesting. I just was back last week from my yearly testing, and, everyone gets the anxiety before they go back and what are they going to find? And it's interesting because I definitely have anxiety, but I also feel this comfort when I walk back into MD Anderson, because in a way it's where it's okay for me to be the cancer patient, because I do try to be strong for my kids, for my husband, for my parents, my friends. You don't want that to identify you. But this has been such a massive part of my life, and really like another family member, really, but this invisible family member. And it feels oddly comforting to be able to go back and sort of get back in touch with that, even though my original cancer, hopefully, most likely will never come back. The risk of a secondary cancer is extremely high. So that's what they are looking for more now. And I think that I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. I'm not grateful for the disease, but I know that's what it took to get me to this life of having a family, having kids, slowing down. I don't push my body anymore. I listen to my body. I allow myself to rest. It took what it was and the hugeness of the disease. And I'm grateful to cancer for giving me that gift.
And what a huge gift. And to be able to see that gift and to hear your experience, I know is going to touch so many lives. And I'm sure it's not always easy to share. Some days are probably easier than others. So I do thank you for, going deep and sharing, because I know that that's not always easy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So as far as your world, it changed very drastically. You mentioned that you were always doing marathons, headed towards medical school. How did you pivot? You know, you definitely pivoted becoming a mom, which I think is incredible hope for women out there. How else did your life pivot?
You know, that's another great question. I think that to speak on becoming a mom briefly, I was told when I was going through my first, bout with cancer, that chances of me having a child really were very, very slim. And the doctors said, we are here to save your life. You know, we cannot, there's so many other things that are, well, what if and what about? And I understood that. And they did what they had to do, and they did a great job. Fertility, you had to kind of take matters into your own hands and go see the specialist and do what you could do. And the more treatments that went on, the more grim it was looking down the road. And of all the doctors who had said it probably wasn't happening for us, we have 2 beautiful children, and my son was actually a natural pregnancy. And they asked if we could release his medical records. And he's been written up in the New England Journal of Medicine because he's only the second, at the time, he was only the second reported case of a natural pregnancy after the treatment that I'd had. And I thought, this is the most incredible gift that if I had heard there was one person out there who'd been able to do it, then that meant it was possible, right? And it's just to keep that hope and that it is possible. And that was so huge to me. And that little boy is so magical in so many ways, that the hope that he gave so many people that I've spoken to or come and asked me, has just been, it brings tears to my eyes every time. I think that, as I transitioned from type A to type like B minus, my kids say it. And I think once the cancer forced me out of my life, and once I got through my first diagnosis, I was in this very odd period of my life of living in wait. I couldn't go back to school. I couldn't go back to get a job because I was still going in for some maintenance treatments. My husband and I had gotten married a few months prior. We were in our first rental cottage in Santa Monica. And so I'm just there looking at the walls thinking, I don't know what to do, and this was so opposite from any life I had ever lived of just going. And one day I just Google searched on my computer, Rescue Dogs Los Angeles.
There are many things people need to balance in their lives in order to maintain happiness and emotional health. You need to look after your romantic, spiritual, and physical needs to keep them in balance. When feeling down, seeing an intuitive advisor could be the optimal way to get back on track. An intuitive reading session could be the tool you need to reduce the ambient noise in your life and focus on things that truly matter, growing, finding clarity, and empowering your life. Head over to jenniferpilates.com to claim your special intuitive email reading. Again, that's jenniferpilates.com.
I think I was looking back, craving that animal connection. I've always loved animals, and they've always been a very safe place for me. And it was a horrible idea in theory to Google this because our landlord did not allow dogs, was very, very clear on this lease. And I just, the whole time I'm Googling, I'm just imagining, Jerry's face and this big bold letters, no dogs allowed. And, I did it anyway. And I'm scrolling through, and this picture popped up of this yellow lab, and he was ginormous. He was a Great Dane lab mix. And I stopped because this look in his eyes, it just literally stopped me exactly where I was. And I'm looking at this dog, and I look at this expression and this sadness coming from his eyes. And he was emaciated. He'd been horribly abused. He was being put down, in a matter of hours. And for whatever reason, I picked up the phone and I just said, I'm on my way. And I went and grabbed him, and his name was Riley. And for a couple of days, I thought it was the worst thing I'd ever done. What was I thinking about bringing this damaged dog home, and I'm having to hide him from my landlord, and my husband is looking at me like I've lost my mind. And Riley was in one corner. He was terrified of everyone, everything. But then a couple of days later, I was cooking steaks in the kitchen, and I kind of heard him creeping in. And it was the first time he'd come out of his corner. And I kind of cut a piece and I kind of put it down, and he crept over and took it. And that was the first time I saw his tail just start to wag. And I thought, oh my God. And I reached over and I gave my husband steak. I just put the whole thing on the floor for Riley, like, you can have as much as you want. And that was it. It was a very, very slow but special process that we established this trust and this bond. And I credit Riley with so much, but really showing me during that period, he showed me how a being can be so damaged and have gone through such horrific circumstances, but yet never lost hope, never lost trust, never lost faith. He was never angry or aggressive or mean towards humans. He was frightened, but he was never angry. And that dog was able to find a way to trust me, trust our family, and really trust life eventually. And we rehabilitated him to live the fullest, most gorgeous life. And the lives that dog touched and the letters we still receive of people that knew him and loved him and have met him and been terrified of animals, but just saw him and rescued dogs because of it. And they're endless. I could put him in, a thick folder. And he just showed us how to just be in the moment, be okay, be peaceful, and just be okay not knowing what the future was going to hold.
That is such a special bond.
Yeah, he was something. He was the greatest. He was the greatest.
God bless him. When did he transition?
It'll be 5 years in January, which is so hard to believe. And I said sometime a couple years ago, someone came up to me and they said, I can't believe all you've been through. You're a hero. And I remember feeling that word and just feeling so, thank you, but I don't see myself that way. I think heroes are people that may have a choice. They choose to go be a soldier and put their life on the line for our country. I didn't have a choice. I did what I had to do to live. But the one moment that I always think back to, if I had to pick a moment where I was a hero, it was the day we did have to put Riley down. And, he'd been very sick for 2 days. He'd had surgery. He'd been in the ICU. We'd been with him the whole time. And the doctor finally, I think the doctor for a while had been kind of nudging me towards the inevitable. And I just was not ready to accept it. And I had to kind of give that nod, the okay to let them, push the medication. And I knew I had to do it for him. And I knew he knew I was ready. But of course, you don't feel ready, and that was the most selfless thing I could do for him. And so I think that was the moment I had the choice. That was the moment that I put his heart, his needs, his life above mine. And that was one of the harder things I've ever done.
Wow. That is so special. Both of us are sitting here and the tears.
I know.
We're both just.
I know.
I totally
know.
I totally understand. I have two emotional support animals and I get it.
Yes.
They're so special. And
they're so special. They are
lifesavers. They truly are.
They are. Mm-hmm. I say that as humans, we're imperfect. We try so hard, but we hurt each other. We don't want to, but we do. And our hearts sort of, the longer we live, it just has some cracks in it from living. And it's like an animal's love comes in and it just cements the cracks. It just puts our heart back together and it strengthens it. And it's sort of almost like I have more confidence and I'm stronger to go out into the world, just having that foundation of love because it's so consistent. You can count on it. There's no question to it. It is exactly that. It's just pure. And I think in our world, that is such an incredible thing for humans to have. I'm a huge fan of the emotionals. Riley became a service dog towards the end, and I can't imagine not have had him during those years.
I can't imagine you not having him. And you even dedicated your blog to him.
Yeah.
When did your blog come to be? It is a very special place full of so many inspiring stories and great information about your journey. When did all that start for you?
Thank you. That was so nice of you to say. I started speaking for City of Hope, and it sort of started out as a patient story. And then it kind of grew from there and started speaking to different audiences. And I had a moment of, I loved speaking, but I never really wanted it to all be about me. I wanted it to be relatable. I think we all have struggle. We all deal with so much, depression, divorce, so much. And I think the relatable thread is this hope, right? And somehow, some way, Riley always made it into these talks. And after I would speak, the audience would come up, and I loved hearing just what resonated, everyone brought up Riley. And it was this very interesting thing to me of a way to talk about life, talk about situations, really almost through the perspective of our journey together. And I think once he passed, it took me a while to figure out the why, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What just happened these 12 years we had together? And I think that his life and realizing the strength he had and what he modeled to so many, that was the message I wanted to share. And that was the love I wanted to show. And I think that even though our lives are so different, our struggles are so different, that love of an animal, we have all had an animal that we've either had the gift of having for ourselves, seen on TV, passed at the barn or whatever it is. And you feel that. And there's something magical about that. And there's a reason they're in our lives. And I thought, that's what it is. And that's what this needs to be. And this needs to always go back to the reason, the hope, the love, the trust, living in the moment, accepting and facing fear. And that's what he taught me.
Such an incredible, incredible pup. Oh, and I love looking at his picture behind you. He's so sweet. Everyone can head over to her blog and check him out. He's so handsome. Oh,
he is. He was about 140 pounds at his sort of happy weight. And he was just the size of a Great Dane, but looked like a yellow lab. So everyone that is the biggest dog I've ever seen. And once he became a medical service dog, we started bringing him on the airplane. And my brother, he said, Caroline, you cannot it's like bringing a small pony on the plane. And I thought, well, he's coming. So, and he went to Disneyland with us. He did the rides. He just went everywhere and just he was happy. If he was with us, he was happy, just smiling and just, spreading his joy wherever he went.
Oh, one life saved another. I love it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. In looking back over your journey, what one moment do you feel most proud of yourself?
I think I feel the most proud. I think the first time I wrote and put it out there to the world, I like speaking. That becomes naturally to me, and I can see people and their reaction. Writing is scary in that it's very personal, and I needed it to be personal, or there really wasn't the point of putting it out there. And I've always struggled with, what is everyone going to think? And is this going to be? And I think putting that first post out into the world for anyone to read, for people that I know well to read, but maybe they don't know that side of me, was probably the most vulnerable place I've been in the past decade. And I think it was sort of also finally owning and coming to terms with everything that I've gone through. For so many years after treatment, I wasn't ready to look back on it. I wasn't ready to dig in emotionally. I wasn't wanting to relive it. It was traumatic, and I was suffering this sort of post-traumatic stress in this, way related to all the treatments and what I'd gone through. And I really needed time to peel back those layers and sort of let myself grieve it and be mad and be scared and all of it, and so that I could move through it and past it. And so I think it was that moment for me was, I still have a lot of work to do, but I'm doing it, and I'm honoring that, and I'm honoring Riley. And, if it helps somebody, that is the greatest gift I could ever imagine. And so kind of keeping that all in mind and pressing publish was a very, very proud moment because of what it represented.
Yeah, congratulations. So how old is your baby blog now?
I think, gosh, maybe 2 years, I want to say. About 2.5. And we have a book that's currently with a publisher. We're not sure when it's coming out, but they picked the title of Dear Riley Rose. And it is basically kind of each chapter is sort of a different situation, but it is basically one big love letter to Riley. And it's sort of told through our journey together of health, family, life struggles, a lot of funny, Riley moments, and kind of just the relationships that we all have.
That sounds like a really great, incredible book. I can't wait to read it. We'll have to have you back on the show once it's out.
Yeah, I'd love that. That would be great.
That would be wonderful. So for our audience that's out there who maybe they have a family member or a friend that may be struggling with cancer, what advice do you have? How do we approach what is best to say, what not to say? There's always those times where you don't know what to say, but sometimes someone wants to talk. And so what advice do you have for our listeners out there?
I think that if someone that has been diagnosed, I think that, I remember calling some people and I remember being so surprised by some reactions, good and bad. What I learned years later was the quote unquote bad reactions. They just didn't know what to say. It was scary for them. It was hard for them. And, I think the reactions that I still laugh about, that I so valued, was just the direct, like, that sucks, or the, oh man, like, didn't see that coming, kind of just, yeah, that does suck. That is, a horrible situation. It just felt very honest, and it felt very like they were kind of honoring just the fear and the unknown and this scary situation I was in. I think maybe one of the things you don't want to hear or say to somebody is, I know exactly how you feel. I've got a friend of a friend who had some exact same thing, or, it's sort of a moment where you're kind of still struggling with your own situation. And while there might be a time later on when you do want to hear about that friend of a friend and what happened to them, you're really kind of in your world right now. And I think you will ask if you need, to hear other stories. But really, I think just showing up. I always say, don't call and say, hey, when can I bring dinner by? Because I'm free Saturday at 2, or just go leave it on the doorstep. Send a text like, hey, I just dropped dinner off, just kind of do things to be as helpful. Go to Costco, get paper towels, get toilet paper, just leave them by the back door, because life still happens with the diagnosis. If they have kids, one of the best gifts I was given when I was in the hospital for about 6-8 weeks, a friend gave me one of the books from Hallmark that you could record your voice. And I think it was called I Love You So Much. And so I recorded this for my kids. And while I was in the hospital, that's what they would listen to. And I mean, they listened to that I still have it. I mean, that meant so much, little things like that. Anytime someone did something for my kids, it was the biggest gift to me, whether they brought them a stuffed animal or took them to the park or gave them a ride somewhere, that is what, in the situation I was in, it's being a mom to young kids. That's always my worry. So taking care of the loved ones. If someone took my parents out to dinner, that meant so much. Anything you can do just to help their life, because their life is still going, even though they are kind of having to check out and deal with, their situation. And I think also never be afraid of saying the wrong thing. I think it's better to reach out. And even if you say exactly what they didn't want to hear, you still reached out, you showed up, and it matters when you show up. It really matters.
Thank you. I think that is very helpful. And I know it's going to help a lot of people out there, because it's a very tough situation and you want to show up, but you also want to really show up in the right way. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the people that don't show up, it's easy to be upset and angry. I had one friend in particular, I'd just been in her wedding, and then I didn't hear from her for a couple of years. And I just thought, I just couldn't and we talked about it years later. And, I had never considered her side of things. And once I saw her and we spoke face to face, and I mean, we just both were crying, I felt so horrible that I judged her and she felt horrible, but it made sense, And so that was a big lesson for me of not to assume it's because they don't care or they're too busy. They care a lot. And that might be why it is so hard for them to do that or make that phone call or send that text. I think this was even before texting, which is crazy. But it really is hard on everyone around you. And even though you're keenly aware of that, it may not be for the reasons we assume them to be.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, because everyone handles situations differently and has their own, connections in some ways.
Yes. 1,000%. Yes.
Well, Carolyn, we are coming to that time in the show when I ask you this one question.
Yes.
Are you ready, girl?
I'm ready.
All right, Carolyn. What is one thing that no one knows about you?
The secret is getting out, I will say. But every single morning, I wake up and I get my coffee and I get a slice of pumpkin pie. And it can be April, it could be July, and it is that pumpkin pie. And so I will either, during the season, as it is now, just buy them at the store and freeze them in my freezer. There have been times when my freezer is just stocked with pumpkin pie. Or if I run out, I'll have to start making it on my own. But I don't miss a morning. I will travel with my pie. I will go to great lengths to keep that pie in the morning. And, my kids have given me such a hard time and my husband has just given up. And I think that there's so much joy for me in waking up and having that coffee and that pie and just sort of, it makes me stop and sit, and I've got my dogs around me and of course they get bites, and it just is such an awesome way to start a day where you're just so happy for 5 minutes even. It means it is everything to me. It really is. So I have no plans of stopping anytime soon, although I'm sure one day I'll find something else that I love even more.
I think you should stick with the pumpkin pie. I'm a huge pumpkin pie lover. And can we talk about the health benefits of pumpkin?
The
antioxidants alone, I can justify this 12 ways to heaven for you.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And sometimes when I make my own, I'll make it with coconut sugar instead. And it tastes just as fantastic. And, then you can really dive into that. This is actually maybe good for me. But yeah, it is, I highly recommend it. It is a great way to start the day.
I think that is incredible advice on self-care and self-value. I think that is incredible that you do that for yourself every day. And I think I might be joining you tomorrow.
Yes. Send me a picture. Send me a picture. Yes. Yeah,
I will. Yeah. That would be great. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your journey and all of your emotions, and so much for sharing Riley with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, please let our audience know if they'd like to connect with you, like to get to your blog. Where is the best place to do that?
Absolutely. So the website is dearrileyrose.com, and Instagram is the exact same. And those are probably the two best ways, and you can contact me through either.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. And all of that information will be in our show notes over at jenniferpilates.com. And as we say, until next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.